Friday night. We are in Nova Scotia. We are with our friends at Erdinger. I've got Sean Rogers, I've got Pete Bolster, I've got John Milburn. We're going to talk about the manager's press conference, matters arising there, then we'll get into season excitement and the game against Ipswich. We'll start with it, Pete. He backs himself. For me, that is the beginning, middle and end of it. Is on all of this, at no point has he took any hiding places. At no point has he even said, well, I might like a few players. At no point has he looked for any excuse, used the word transition. I think the startling thing for me, and the thing I'm right into, is say what you want, he backs himself 100%.
He's very, very direct, he's very straight, isn't he? Like you said, he doesn't shy away. It's quite clear that we went for the number 6. It's quite clear that we need the number 6, and it's quite clear who he went for. And he expressed of how much Liverpool tried to get Superman. He said that they failed. He couldn't get it over the line. But he hasn't shied away from it at all, has he? So he's making it perfectly clear that Liverpool still have got a couple of weeks of transfer business, and they're going to have to do something, because if they don't do something in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be left in a bit of a...
But he's acting like, the squad's here and I only want someone who's there. That's what I...
I understand that, but at the same time, he's got a couple of weeks in the sense of, like, he's got to play that type of, like, game, hasn't he, in the sense that if we don't get someone over the line in the next 2 weeks, he's got to go in with these set of lads. But it's been apparent for a couple of seasons that Liverpool need the number 6. It was very apparent last August that we needed that proper holding midfielder, and we went with Alexis McAllister, and he'd done really well at times. But one of the biggest problems Liverpool had throughout the season was transition. When we had the ball, we keep talking about Arne Slot. We're going to have the ball more. I'm sure we are. I'm sure his idea is having an element of control. What happens when we haven't got control? It's transition, and that's where Liverpool slip up.
I disagree. What I took from it, and I watched it this afternoon, is I thought he was basically saying, Jurgen's left us in really, really good position here, and there aren't that many men in the world who can make this team better. There's even fewer who are like the role that we were looking for, the number 6. We identified one. We did our best to get him over the line, but the kid's changed his mind, or the kid's had his mind changed for him, or whatever, for every reason that happening. So, but we're already sound, and we will be sound. And I don't know. I just think the squad seems to be in rude health. We've got like few real fitness worries in a way that kind of. I know we've got a few that are only just making their way back to fitness because they've had a bit of time off. But I mean, in terms of injured players, the squad's in good health, and so it all feels all right for me at the moment. My worry, and where I do take your point, is it won't stay like that. I can guarantee it won't stay that for the full duration of the season, and therefore I always want to be a little bit more belt and braces. I want to know we've got belters in reserve, we've got belters all over the pitch, and I just think that, I said it in something else the other day, that I just like Liverpool to be in a position where they're as bold as they can be, and they don't leave things too much to chance, and I think we can give this fella a real... I've got all the faith in the world in him, and I've got all the faith in the world of the players, and we all like a bit of new. We all like somebody to get behind, a new hero, and I'm convinced that some of our players of last season who maybe underperformed can be that player for this season. But I would have liked a couple of players.
Yeah,
I would have liked a couple of players to come in, but I'm not going to absolutely melt down. But for me, this is not Arne Slot. This is if you'd asked me 5 years ago or 6 years ago, should Liverpool sign one more belter? I would. The answer is always yes. The answer is when we sign 6.
I'm just not having it that it's not imperative that he signs a couple of players that it is. You know what I mean? If someone gave me £1 million house now, I'd still look into it and want a different couch. It's that simple. It can be a lovely house, but I want a new couch.
If I gave you £1 million, you'd ask me for a bag to take it home.
I think it needs to be. There's no doubt that Jurgen Klopp's left Liverpool in good health. You'd be mad to suggest otherwise. You finished third in the league. If you want to go up higher, you need to start creating a bit of your own signings and changing that part of the team. It's quite clear that that's where it is.
This is a two-way conversation between you. I think the interesting...
They knew that more. So we've got a nice fight.
What I've found interesting now is that there's a lot of people like saying the word number 6 over and over again. Number 6, number 6, number 6. But I've not heard any names. I've not heard anybody say here's a player that Liverpool should definitely go after, and they can get him for 105 million, or they can get him for 110 million. There's been an absence of that. I think we're not going to get Rodri, are we? I think we've gone for.
It'd be amazing if we did.
Imagine if we did.
Imagine the pint on that one. Imagine the Rodri pint.
So like, we can all be furious because the symbol of a new body coming into the squad is what we want. But if we can't put a name on it, then I don't think we should be as mental.
I think he can coach them. I think if there's one thing that seems crystal clear to me, Sean, is he backs himself on the training pitch. Everything he said, every single noise, every aspect of it. And that's what I want. It would be easy for him from the day he came in to say, Jürgen, great job, but he'll take me a bit of time to get my stamp on them. He hasn't done that. It would now be easy for him to say, well, they haven't been able to get anyone in yet. I mean, the Manchester United manager's making terrible noises. Our fella's making noises like, the job's to try and win the league, and that's what we're going to go and do from day one.
Totally. I mean, on the subject of the number 6, I know you said as a fan base we've been quite obsessed with that, and people say, well, to be fair, the club have tried to sign quite a few in that regard. But Jurgen Klopp made the 6 quite a big thing because he saw the importance of Fabinho. We saw the workload that Fabinho had on in that system. But if you haven't got one, don't play one. We're having chat ourselves, like the 87-88.
Other formations are available.
Yeah, the 87-88 side, albeit a different world ago, is ultimately a left-sided midfield player and an attacking midfield player that dovetail together and go, we're going to be a really good central midfield combination. Emmanuel Petit and Patrick Vieira were different types of midfield player, but it was making some of your parts better, wasn't it? That as a duo, like a centre-back pair in that sense.
Fernandinho scores against Liverpool in a cup final playing right wing.
Yeah, and I think if you want a 6, you have to build your own. So I'll give you an example. I think they're always going to be a project. So if you went and got Henrik Larsson from Frankfurt, which is one that I think may or may not go on to
Hugo Larsson.
Henry Larsson, great forward for Celtic, yeah. So if you go and get Larsson from Frankfurt, he's not ready now. He just isn't. You might need to bring him in, have a season with him, give him a loan, and then he'll be ready. The question mark is if he develops the way you want him to develop, and everyone's then after do you want to go, no, actually, we let him develop there, and we have a race at 80, 90 million for him with everyone else. Or do we bring him on? But he's still not ready for this season. It's still not going to help Armour Slot now. So when you look around, they've obviously identified someone, but it's very much someone who is more on the ball side of the playing 6.
Yep.
And we can probably work with them on the defensive side of the game.
On the physical side.
That's easier than going, I'm going to sign Polina and I'm suddenly going to change all of his footballing ability and passing ability to do what we need. So I think for him, very much he's come in rightly. And he may take the view, and all his coaching staff will back themselves. They may go, this club got to April in the run for pretty much everything, and the injuries January onwards have completely kiboshed it. And I wouldn't be surprised to be speaking to the senior players, and they're like, it was the injuries that absolutely... I mean, we lost 3 players at Brentford.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? His medical team, though, will go, yeah, but we'll sort that. But they're not coming in going, oh, you'll have the same problems with us. Honestly, this is going to be a nightmare.
The injuries and availability stuff for me is interesting because one of the things that, I could hope for anything, if we can avoid conceding as early in games as we've been doing last season, that became a trope for 2 seasons, really.
2 seasons, yeah.
We had 2 seasons of it being our issue, and the great thing was we could rally and we could get back in front. The stats from being in losing positions were really, really impressive. I just don't want to be in that situation because the teams we're competing with are only 2-3 goals up by 60 minutes, and they can start resting people, and they're not putting the strain on their most important players, whereas Liverpool were having to run their most important players to 70, 80, 90 minutes to turn around games they were losing. So I think we can avoid going behind early and play that sort of a game where the boring last half hours at Anfield. I'd be delighted.
But if I'm a gobshite, one of the things I'd say is one of the things that would help in the first 15 minutes is a lad who sits in front of the back four and just wins his battles and kicks it away and wins some headers.
And I feel like that is the problem, and I take your point, Sean, in the sense of we'll play a different style, but the makeup of the midfield, it lacks pace centrally. That's how I feel. So I think if you're looking at team selection for tomorrow, you're looking at, you've got to play someone who's quicker, and I think that's why Gravenberg has started to come in over Curtis Jones. So Curtis Jones might feel aggrieved that he might not start tomorrow. He might play Gravenberg next to McAllister just for that backup pace. I think Szoboszlai's done that a few times last season. I don't think he wants to play there, and I think that's the problem with Szoboszlai.
Yeah, I completely agree in that. I think if Liverpool were going to sign a midfield player, I'm more interested in them signing an attacking midfield player in the mould of an Erdinger or a De Bruyne. Because if you look at the way this manager plays, most of our games this year, we're going to have 60-70% possession. He's going to have 2 centre midfielders in front of Virgil receiving the ball, and every opposition team are going to be honest. We're basically creating a tiny rondo in front of our 2 centre backs, and you're going to have midfielders good enough to keep that off people in the phone box. And I think with Szoboszlai and possibly Elliott, I'm big fans of both, but there's a question mark on their numbers if they're going to be that attacking midfield player. And in terms of quality, you compare them to Erdegaard, De Bruyne and people like that. Are they good enough? Now, they may well develop and prove that they are, but in the here and now, I agree with exactly what you just said. I'd be more interested in McAllister alongside Szoboszlai, where you've got Szoboszlai's athleticism, his pace, his power, his strength in that regard.
I'd start Szoboszlai and Jones tomorrow.
Yeah, so I think Szoboszlai should be playing in the deeper line role, because I'm not sure he's good enough to play in a title-winning team
he
as the attacking midfield player.
But he might not want to. But that's where the manager's got. That's where the coach ends corner and explains to him.
Do you want to play or don't you?
I just think.
Do you want to play for a title-winning team or don't you?
I just think for his national side, he plays further forward than I think for Liverpool. I think in the pre-season we've seen it as well. I think if you look at Mo Salah on the right-hand side, I think he's playing that ball to Szoboszlai. I think that's what's going to be the little link-up. I think Harvey Elliott's going to be the casualty in that. I think Mo Salah's going to take Harvey Elliott's role more and become a bit deeper and play a bit more of a playmaker role. And I think Szoboszlai is going to be that fourth man, forward man.
Where's Tony Gordon you play?
Well, we've got to worry about that in a minute. What we're doing in this, though, what I would say is full stop. What we keep doing here is we're acting as though, because it's only 1 game a week now for the next 3 weeks, in our heads is, well, it's first 11 game 1, and then it'll be first 11 game 2 and first 11 game 3. Well, it might not be, but also, even if it is, get the other side of this international break, and they're playing every 3 days.
Yeah, and there's an argument, funnily enough, I think there's an argument, and Liverpool are better placed than 2 of our main rivals to do this. There's almost an argument that you'd have a Champions League team and a Premier League team, and I don't think players' heads are there, I don't think coaches' heads are there right now, but I think with the 5 subs, there's an argument that you'd be using your 5 subs from half-time to minute 70. Now, there's a huge risk with that, and the first time you drop points from doing this, everyone, including us, will go absolutely mental about it. But the point being, I think you've got to try and work out, how are we going to do a big game on the Saturday, away to Bayern Munich Wednesday, and still have a chance of winning a big Arsenal away or something on the Sunday?
Well, and the only way Chelsea home, Champions League, Arsenal away, that's on the horizon.
Yeah,
that happens in October.
Marginal gains are, well, we make 5 subs then between 45 and 60 in that game. In the Champions League game, we do the same. We look after everyone's fitness, everyone gets the minutes, and everyone's going to know the roles inside out. And on the top of the 6, everyone references Rodri. We'll look at Arsenal. They won virtually every game needed in the second half of last season and didn't even play Declan Rice there.
Yeah. Play Jorginho.
So there may be certain big games, like last stage of the Champions League, away to Man City, where you go like, could really do with a real defensive grok there that's going to screen and drop into centre-back areas. But through the majority of the season, you need more of a Zubamendi type than you probably do more of a Palhinha type.
Against the bottom 12 teams in the league, we shouldn't be in a situation where we need this absolute anchoring player in the way that everyone's talking about. We should be able to be a little bit more fruitful. I'm not saying reckless, I'm not, but Liverpool should have enough quality on and off the ball.
But I want to not concede any goals in the first half an hour and have a lot of kicks in there.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on that. I remember, I don't know if it was the first, I think it might have been the second game of the season, about 4 or 5 years ago, away to Burnley. I think we had 81% of the possession. We lost 1 or 2-0 because we didn't have a natural number 6. I remember Jordan
Henderson. We played in yellow, didn't we?
Yeah, Jordan Henderson running back and not making that tackle or not making that foul. And I think we always say it might maybe at home to Burnley when you're 2 or 3-0 up and it's a nice day at Anfield.
But if Klopp was sat here, though, what he'd say to that is, by the time you get to 2019, when Fabinho gets the injury when we're going for the title and everyone goes, oh, woe is us, and then Jordan drops in. Jordan does brilliantly, and Klopp would say, well, that's coaching.
Yeah.
We coached over a period of time, we got them play, and I think that this is the slot thing, which is, I think he looks at them and he thinks, I can coach these, and that's how he's backing himself. But I sort of simultaneously, I do agree with the idea of, I want a footballer who, for instance, will do what it takes in the first 15 minutes to ensure it's still 0-0 when you go to Pullman Road, because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. And I remember last year, I love McAllister, I thought he was great, but when we concede early to Palace in the league game on the 14th of April, he's meant to be on the right-hand side of the midfield, and they were just playing in that area with impunity. And what Henderson would have done, or Fabinho would have done, would have been I'm just going to go and fix this, and they're not going to take the piss out of us in this space. But McAllister's brain was, how do we go forward? And this is your point of, it would be great, not so much necessarily that the profile is a Polinia, but if there's someone in there with the mentality of, there's just a job that needs fixing and I'm going to fix it. Yeah. And I think that's what you want.
Absolutely, I think someone who just takes responsibility in that part, but they've like go repeating the same point. They've got to have the natural attributes, and I'm not sure there's someone in the Liverpool team who've got the makeup to catch up with when there's a problem in the team. And I think we're just prone to counter-attacks over and over and over again. However, the only thing I would say positive about Travis is we've only got 3 games in August. That's it. Is this Liverpool side good enough for the next 3 games? He's saying they are.
The other thing is he's literally sat with players. Like people talking about Bobby Clark being released. I wouldn't be surprised if he sat there now because he hasn't lived the reality of this, and no one's lived the reality of the Swiss system and everything else. So he may well think differently, but he might be sat there right now with his medical team going, look, everyone's in good nick. We back ourselves with our past record of what we do. He might be going, how do I get all these minutes? He's probably having conversations today, possibly with the likes of Harvey Elliott and Joe Gomez going, don't lose your shit this month. Your minutes are coming, they're guaranteed, I need you. But he might literally think of what our bench could be for Ipswich. Well, and I think who's being left out.
I'm about to say there's going to be 2 or 3 players who are not on the bench for Ipswich who are going to be knocking on the manager's door. Go, what? I'm not in the 20. I'm not in the 20.
And this is what I mean about. I think if there is a marginal gain for us compared to our rivals, we can keep everyone fit. I don't think we will, but I think he should heavily rotate September and onwards. And at early subs, the 5 subs have a different 6-7 changes for the Champions League games. The difficulty is taking the big plays and your Virgils and your Mo's along with you, because it might be their last opportunities to play for Liverpool away at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in these games, and you'll be like, so okay, you're not playing Saturday then, and therefore we're going to go. And I think the way, what he might do, which I think he started to do, is I think the way you rotate successfully is partnerships. So you go, right, I might go Virgil Quansah, but I'll develop Canate and Gomez, and alright, if there's an injury I need to do something with one of them, fine, but then I might like Salah, Szoboszlai, Trent, but I might start working with, as an example, Elliott, Bradley and Diaz as the right-sided player, or whatever that might be. Or
just run Salah, and we say Salah went to everyone.
But then you can rotate 2 or 3 in, and you're not carrying as big a risk that you break that rhythm.
There we are. Back in a minute to talk about the trip to Portman Road. We're with Erdinger, we're in Nova Scotia, it's an absolute pleasure.
And Erdinger, please.
Stop!
Don't forget the best bit.
Welcome back in Nova Scotia with our friends at Erdinger. I've got Sean, I've got Pete, I've got John. John, it's hard in that they'll be up for it. Don't care it's 12:30. You can say it would be worse if it was 5:30. I don't think it is. I think that they will be absolutely. At the end of last season, Ipswich it was full pitch invasion territory when they came up. It's huge for that club. It's huge for the area. There's nothing else around. You know, there's no other club nearby. Even Norwich, it's not close. Let's be clear. It's massive for them on Saturday. I think that can work for us in that it means that they can't sit off. They've got to be engaged. They've got to be aggressive because the fans won't stand for it. The atmosphere will be there. The adrenaline will be pumping. That can help us. But it's back to this idea of we've got to survive that first half an hour.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere will take care of itself for them tomorrow. I think you've got us first, you've City second, haven't they?
Yeah.
So there's almost been a free hit territory, I think, for the first couple of games. But that said, you're at home, first Premier League game. I think the fans will accept any result, but what they won't accept is a lack of effort, energy, application and trying. If Liverpool take the piss and humiliate them with some unbelievable play, they'll clap their hands and say, fair enough, that's fair enough. But they will not rest, they will not give us a second on the ball. And I think you're right, I think we've got to eliminate this trait that we've had this trope we've had in the last 2 seasons of being vulnerable in the first half hour of the game. So I think if Liverpool can ride that out, quieten the crowd a little bit. I don't think it'll quiet them fully, but they can take the heat out of the situation, maybe get one. I think we'll be absolutely fine. I'm looking at the first 3 games as a bit of a phony war, to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, but like the real season for me will start after the international break. So if Liverpool can get to the point where it's very easy to underestimate these 3 fixtures. because they're all what I would categorise as winnable, but it's not beyond the wit of man that Liverpool pick up a draw maybe, and Old Trafford's not an easy place for us to go to. Even with good and shit teams, we struggle there. But if we can somehow amass 9 points and then go into the next phase of the season feeling chipper, I think it'll be really, really good. But we shouldn't underestimate this team tomorrow. I think they play some good football in the Championship. I didn't see loads of them, but what I did see is they had 1 or 2 eye-catching players, and I think there's a couple of lads in that team that I think are going to surprise a few people in the Premier League. There's definitely Premier League standard, but like, we're Liverpool Football Club and we should not be intimidated by them, and we should be able to deliver the quality we've got. New manager, but I heard this morning this will be the first Premier League Liverpool manager in about 15 years that's won in his first Premier League game.
Yeah, Rafa won his first one, City.
No, Rafa draws 1-1 away Spurs.
CC goal, yeah. So the first home game he does win.
Wins the first home game, and also when he wins the first home game, it was the first time he come from behind at half time in 3 years.
That's right, yeah.
And that was why it was massive.
We all went mad over that, didn't we?
Yeah, because we hadn't come behind for 3 years. We were down at half time, he came back and won. How are you feeling about it? What do you want to see him do? What do you want to see him do at right back? What do you want to see him do at left back? What do you want to see him pick in midfield? I think we're probably all aligned on the same front three, same centre halves. I don't think anyone's dropping the goalkeeper. My word, dog excitement. Go on.
I think the only thing important to note is with Ipswich as well, it's 20 years, so the excitement's there. I'm not going to go too much on it because John's just spoke about that, but also Kieran McKenna, the ego of him, in the sense that he's just being linked to the Man United job, he's just being linked to the Chelsea job. He's going to want Liverpool as a scalp on his record. He's going to want to take a few big teams out. He's the next Man United coach as well, isn't he?
Well, it's been interesting, a number of Man United players, a couple of clubhouses put the little thing I've going on. I think that Ipswich could turn Liverpool over, which suggests to me there's something knocking around on the grapevine.
Exactly, yeah. So he's definitely going to be up for that. But for what I want to see in the back four, all day. I mean, for me, he's why I would buy a ticket for every single match. I just love watching him play.
I'm glad to say that.
Yeah, I think Quansah and Van Dijk, I think that looks nailed on. I can't see Konaté starting just yet. I think he plays himself into fitness, and I think he's been at the Euros. He's come back late. He wasn't in the Sevilla team. Similar to Robertson, I'm not really sure if he'll go with Robertson, but no one's talking about Joe Gomez playing left back, and Timmy has just played the whole of the pre-season. But I just think Joe Gomez might just come in, and especially because of our midfield problem, I think it might just solidify the defence.
Okay. What do you think he'll do in midfield?
I was going to say, I know we wanted a terrier in midfield, but that's pretty literal, isn't it, really? So, yeah, can you play 6? Selection-wise, obviously, I think we all think that pretty much the Ipswich game was what, at that point, he had in mind.
The Sevilla game was what he had in mind for Ipswich?
Yeah, for the Ipswich game, he's looking at Sevilla and Las Palmas. There's a bit of a question mark as to maybe he said to Curtis Jones and RB Elliott, I just want you to get 90, and if I play you in the first game, I'm going to need to sub you off and get other people minutes and things like that. The key takeaway is what he takes from them 2 games, I think. Does that change his mind from last week coming into this fixture? Because the impression you get from Slot is that there's no time to waste. I think as much as he's confident and backs himself, there's a world where he's gone in 3 months in his mind. Even though we know how loyal we are in that, he's saying this is a super club.
Just interruption, he's got no loyalty to any of the players,
no, exactly.
In a positive sense, I'm saying.
No, 1,000,000%. And I think he can also look at this Ipswich game, even though they will have done all the analysis on what Ipswich have done. He's obviously going to go in there and go, I've got to put a marker down. Like, it's our first game together. And these 3 games are so important to Slot because after a bad result, there's a lot of time for everyone. Forget external pressure. I mean, internally, the players have got to stay on board. He's got to bring the players with him. He just has to. And going to what you were saying earlier, I honestly think he's looking at this saying, I don't necessarily need transfers. I think he's looking at what happened last year going, these were bloody close to winning the league. And I think that Richard Hughes and them will have said, listen, we were weak on the counter-attack, stopping counter-attacks from the opposition. We need to get better at set pieces and we need to stop going 1-0 down early in games. And if you can help us sort the injury side of things, that'll also help those other areas and we'd be there or thereabouts. So I'll be very interested to look at what does this setup do for stopping counter-attacks from Ipswich and Manchester United and Brentford and thereon, because that was a big weakness. So that's a structural thing, not necessarily a personnel thing. I'll be very interested to look at. I think that Jurgen and Linders In the latter stages of Dalglish, I thought it was too romantic. Pragmatism just started to go out a bit. I think that's the legacy of the 87-88 side, that it was almost like, we'll outplay you. Whereas the Souness player era was, if you want to fight, well, I'll fight you. Whatever you want this game to be, we'll beat you. Whereas the Kenny team ended up being, well, we'll just outplay you and that's it. And I wonder whether the Linders Klopp team, the pragmatism of 19 and 20, I think you've seen that as the problem in the first 15-20 minutes, that it's like, no, we get the ball down and we play through you and we beat the press. Whereas Arsenal are not shy of going, no, we're going to go high, long, diagonal for 15, and you can then come at us and we'll soak that up. Like Arsenal were at Manchester United and sat there 4-4-2 for a half, didn't they? And that's something that we used to do. We can control the game without the ball. So I'll be interested in what Slot going to do. Is he going to be more pragmatic, which I hope he is. Like first 10 minutes tomorrow, I wouldn't be playing out, because if you're Ipswich, you're going to say, have no fear of Liverpool first 15. I'm not asking you to play from our goalkeeper and play through them or prove you better than them. Nick it off them 25 yards from goal as often as you can, and we put all our legs into that. Because I think if I was them, I would watch the Fulham, August 22 Fulham Liverpool game and go, that's your template for a newly promoted team as to how to play the first 20 against this Liverpool side. Pick your moments, don't be kamikaze, but you press them and go and win it. And I think in that game, Liverpool lacked maybe a bit of respect for Fulham, but certainly pragmatism.
That's pretty much the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're going to expect us to play out from the back and try and nick it off us. In the first 10 minutes, I'd just get territory and see how Ipswich is set up. You know, there's more than one way to calm the crowd down, in my view. And
nothing happening for 15 minutes would be great.
No, exactly. And
nothing happening.
No, and I think selection-wise, it's not just what he does. He's going to have to work out his subs as well and what he does there. Especially if he chooses to use Robertson. You'd imagine that he's probably going to have to bring Tsimikas on. And going back to partnerships, if he uses Robertson, does that mean that he uses Trent? Does that mean that he might consider Bradley in that regard? If he's got question marks over the midfield area, does he play Bradley so he's got Trent?
I can't get on the Bradley train in the sense of playing a young right back and a young right centre back together and trying to win the Premier League. So are we trying to finish top four, or are we trying to win the Premier League? Because I just can't buy into the fact that we can have too many inexperienced players together.
I'll be picking Trent, I'll be picking Robertson, I'll be picking Quansah. Then off the back of that, going from there, midfield will be a discussion, and we'll discuss it afterwards, and everything on the Anfield Wrap. The front three will be the front three. I'll be amazed if it isn't. I'm not going to do a predictions thing. Liverpool should beat the bottom 10 home and away.
I've backed us to win 5-1, by the way.
Oh wow, okay, that is a prediction and a half.
I think it'll be high scoring and the referee's card happy, like seriously card happy.
Christ, it gets worse as it wears on. I'll take the 5-1 bit, maybe not the cards happy bit. Sean, Pete and John, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're with Erdinger, it is Friday night.